This is apropos. It's shaping up to be Greenland's most closely watched election ever. Voters on the world's biggest island, a semi-autonomous territory of Denmark, are heading to the polls to choose a new parliament this Tuesday. The snap ballot was called after Donald Trump doubled down on his ambitions for the United States to acquire the Arctic island. Our senior reporter, Clovis Casali, is there.
A snowstorm approaches Nuuk, and Matt Qvortrup takes a short break at his office before heading out for more campaigning. The longtime leader of Greenland's main labour union is running for the first time in a general election. Why? Because of Donald Trump.
3 months ago, we woke up to a completely different world. We don't know where we stand. The country that has been our ally and protected us for years suddenly said it could take our land by force. It's worrying.
He wants his semi-autonomous island to have strong cooperation with Denmark and Europe instead of turning towards the United States. He fears for the Greenlandic social model if President Trump manages to get his hands on this island in the Arctic.
I'm not doing this for me. If I'm running in this election, it's for my children and grandchildren. I want to make sure they have a good life when I'm no longer on this earth.
Never before has an election here attracted so much attention from around the world. It's overwhelming for many Greenlanders used to a quiet life. They were shocked to hear Donald Trump say he would have their island one way or another. This engineer, who likes the US president, was surprised.
I don't know what exactly he's thinking about using the words "have Greenland." In Greenland, we can use land for a certain purpose, like building a house or maybe a school, but you can't own the ground.
It's very scary for me because we don't want to this life on the outside, and I don't want to feel USA.
If Donald Trump wants Greenland, it's for its fabulous natural and mineral resources, as well as its strategic location in the Arctic. The people here know it, and according to a poll, 85% of them are opposed to the idea of being part of the United States.
Well, for more on what's at stake, we're joined now by Matt Qvortrup, Senior Research Fellow at the Centre for European Studies at the Australian National University. Matt, thanks so much for being with us. Firstly, we got an idea from that report there, but how completely has Donald Trump overshadowed this election campaign?
This has been the main issue of the election campaign. In fact, there's been no other issue. And it's also sort of firmed up the position of a number of parties. Traditionally, there have been parties that were opposed to independence, but those parties have been now reduced to one party, the Atasut party, which is a sort of conservative party traditionally. So all the political parties in one way or other are now in favor of independence. So that issue has defined it, but it's also created a kind of unity. The issue now is how quickly it will go. So the AI party, Inuit Ataqatigiit party, is in favor of independence as soon as possible, whereas the Siumut party, and those two parties are in coalition together, the Siumut party has flip-flopped a little bit. They changed their opinions, so they wanted to have independence, and now they want a commission to look at the possibilities before there can be a referendum. The thing here is that, a little bit like New Caledonia, in fact, there's been an agreement with metropolitan Denmark and Greenland that there can be a referendum at any time, that the people in Greenland want that. But the people in Greenland currently are benefiting from a so-called block grant from Denmark, where they get money. And that's going to be phased out as they get more resources out of the ground. And that's been a little bit slow. So when Trump is talking about getting the resources are actually pretty hard to get. And the other thing that Trump's talking about, of course, is taking control over it. There's already a very large army base and an airport base in the north of Greenland that the Americans have been using since the 1950s. Not always in a way that's been beneficial to the Greenlandics. There's been a lot of sort of even nuclear waste has been there. And they dropped a hydrogen bomb there accidentally in the 50s, which led to a lot of pollution, and people were forced out of the land. So the Americans have actually not really acted in a way that would be beneficial to the Greenlandics. And those things that happened in the 50s have cast a long shadow over the relationship. So a lot of people in Greenland, and for good reason, have been upset with the Americans.
And what are the main political parties then saying about Donald Trump's approach to Greenland? And also, what are they saying about independence from Denmark? You're talking about a referendum there. Would that be inevitable at this stage? And what happens then, Matt, if people do vote to become independent from Denmark? How long would that actually take? What would the challenges be?
The challenges will be that they would have to set up a whole new system, but that has happened on a number of occasions before. Iceland became independent less than 100 years ago, also independent from Denmark. Norway, of course, a little over 100 years ago became independent from Sweden, and there was a phase-in period of that when Iceland is probably the better example we can compare it to, because Iceland didn't have a university at first, and then they had an agreement with Denmark that people, if they wanted to become dentists, they would go to Copenhagen. Until recently, they could do that. So the process of becoming an independent country can take quite a long time. I think what will happen if there is a referendum is that there will be a period of time before we get to that referendum. There will have to be an agreement about that referendum who will be able to vote in it. At the moment, it looks as if anybody who's lived in Greenland for 6 months or so, even if they're originally from Denmark, can vote there. But there have been some issues have been raised over that. I think what the people in Greenland ideally would like, and I hear that from people I've spoken to in Greenland, is that they would like an independent Greenland in a united Europe. They will be turning towards the European Union currently, and interestingly, Greenland is not a member of the European Union. They're part of Denmark, but they're not part of the European Union. So actually, the first kind of exit from what was then the European communities happened in the early 1980s. Before that time, Greenland had been a county within Denmark. Then they got devolution, a little bit along the lines of what Scotland has today. And then they used that provisions for devolution to actually vote to leave the European communities, as it was then, but later became the European Union. So Greenland is what will happen after the election. I expect that the same government will probably continue. That will be a government that is to different degrees committed to independence. They will then start a process of negotiating with Denmark, but also negotiating with the European Union. A lot of people in the European Union are very interested in that, and they will probably be in pole position, especially certainly more popular than the Americans. So I think there is a relatively good chance that within some years we will see an independent Greenland in a united Europe.
And Matt, is there consensus at all about how to approach the relationship with the US then? Would people there be open to a deal, for example, on minerals exploration? And how worried are they by what they're hearing coming from Donald Trump about, not ruling out using force potentially?
That, of course, is an outrage. And that Donald Trump is effectively behaving like Saddam Hussein was with Kuwait is a thing that beggars belief. And if you are at the receiving end of that, that is incredibly scary. And people are very, very scared of that. The people I've spoken to in Greenland are saying it is a completely surreal and absurd and crazy position that they found themselves in. A lot of people in Greenland have probably suffered in many ways. In some ways, a bit like some of the islands in the Pacific where France tested their nuclear bombs. A little bit the same has happened in Greenland. The people in Greenland do not want, in any way, shape, or form, to be Americans. The people in Greenland are very much on the left. The Inuit Ataqatigiit Party is a party which is politically a bit like Mélenchon in France. It is a party on the far left. People in Greenland are very liberal, to use an American expression, and they do not have, they do not have the same belief system as the Americans have. So they really do not want to become Americans. They want to have a welfare state, probably even a sort of like a left social democratic welfare state. And the ideology of the people in Greenland is completely opposite everything that people have in America. So people in Greenland have a completely different way of looking at things than they have in America. They are on the left, and most Americans are probably on the right.
Matt, we'll have to leave it there for now. We're out of time on that. But thanks so much for being with us this evening. That's Matt Qvortrup. He's Senior Research Fellow at the Centre for European Studies at the Australian National University. Well, that's it from us for now.